Right, anyways, so the thing I'm actually interested in right now is like the evidence for Islam, right? So we talked about, last time we talked about the prophecies, the miracles, and we talked about the...
Why aren't there evidence for Islam?
What's that?
Why are they not evidence for Islam?
Yeah. So one, you said...
Take care.
So, I mean...
Before you go, before you go. Just 1 second, sorry. We would, from the bottom of our heart, invite you to look into Islam and accept Islam, become a Muslim, which is surrendering yourself to the will of God.
I don't believe in any religion.
No. It's not about religion, it's about knowing the one who created you and thanking and being grateful to that creator. Because you and I know, I did not create the universe.
Right,
Neither did you. So it's to be thankful and grateful to that creator of ours. And we say this is the one who is worthy of our worship.
Well, I'm interested in all religions, to be
Yeah.
honest.
So
I'm
this is
clear.
so the one who's
I'm
worthy
open
of
to
our
everything.
worship. The one who's worthy of our worship is the one that we are asking you to embrace him and follow the law and the will and the guidance to that, and that is Islam. If you didn't know much about it, I'm sure my friends and my brothers and sisters are more than willing to explain to you, because I'm engaged here, not engaged in the sense, but in a conversation.
Come back next Sunday and see
And
what
we
you're
can
talking
have a talk discussion. But please speak to my brothers and my sisters over there. Right?
Bye.
You take care. Until then.
And so I would like to say, by the way, thank you for your time. Thank you for taking that time with me. I really appreciate it. And despite all of the heckling going on, it's an enjoyable discussion, personally at least. I'm doing that genuinely in the spirit of truth. I'm not here to cut anyone down. I'm just really interested in what you've got to say. I will push back if I don't, if what I think he's saying doesn't make sense to me. But
Would you be interested if you didn't have any counter back?
Yeah, exactly.
If you agreed with everything, you would be Muslims by all of them. But at the end of the day, we would like you to become a Muslim, and that's why I'm willing to take your pushbacks and try to answer them as you go along.
All right, so I wanted to come back to prophecies, as in the actual kind of evidence for Islam. If you take away the prescriptions and stuff like that. So there's, prophecies and miracles don't really speak to me in general. Like I think, and that also applies to biblical miracles, by the way. Like I don't think that those are particularly.
Sure.
I don't really resonate with that. But just for sake of argument, one point that you mentioned last time, you mentioned this book of 500 miracles that the Prophet did.
I said 300 miracles.
300, sorry. But the Quran itself states, I think, several times that there were no signs given to Muhammad.
No, this is what we explained before as well. This is what the Quranic picture of what a miracle is. Anytime miracle is sent, people in their habitual nature, they disbelieve in the miracles. So God says, "Ma mana'aka." Nothing has prevented me from sending miracles except the people of the past disbelieve in them. So in general, God is not willing to provide miracles and miracles to make people believe, because people in their nature, they disbelieve in the miracles. So even when he sends miracles, they keep on disbelieving in it. That's point number one. Point number two, God does not give in to people's demand of miracles. They say, okay, you know what? Give me a mountain of gold, I will believe, for example. He's not going to give in to this kind of miracles, because these are silly claims people want to make, even if it was because the Quran says, even if there were mountains of gold, stairs going up to heaven, the dead were to speak, they will still not believe. Because belief is not just what they're demanding miracles for as a belief, it's something which is in their heart, the stubbornness and arrogance and pride, and many of their psyche, the ego, that's the problem, not about the evidence. So Quran does not in any way say, oh, Prophet Muhammad was not going to be given any miracles. The Quran says miracles is a matter of time, but it will never be given according to their dictates. And the Quran says that when the miracles are given, the ayat are given, the example I've given you about splitting the moon, وَإِذَا رَأَوْا, when they see this sign, they say this is a magic, perpetual magic and so on. So miracles were performed by the Prophet. The Quran does not somehow say no, it didn't. The Quran affirms that was the case, but people's reaction is it's magic, and the Quran reprimands them. Like, what's there for you not to believe? You see it with your own eyes and you disbelieve. So these are the people that really we're going to have a good accountability in the hereafter, because seeing something in front of their eyes which it cannot be accounted for as a natural thing that people do, like magic and things like that. Some people learn this trick. When they could see clearly, if you and I were there and the sea parted by the staff of Prophet Musa alayhi salam, Camille, are you going to just say, let me rub my eyes? What am I saying? am I be having some kind of delusions for some narcotic gas? You're not going to see that. You see that on front of your face. This is called Ainul Yaqeen. This is your truth, reality of your own eyes. You saw that in your own eyes. So the problem of evil is only a problem to the atheists and the Christians because their theodicy is such that they may have to explain it in that way. In Islam, we believe Allah is wise as well as someone who is well-wisher of any good, like he is the one who is the source of all truth. Because of his wisdom, that is why he even says, for example, you see the good and the bad, the one who sees and the one who doesn't see, how can you judge equally? The contrast is there for us. Would you know what is happiness if you didn't know anything about pain? You would not appreciate in its full depth what is really, you see, when we suffer pain, and then we have happiness before or after, we appreciate more. So the appreciation is in contrast.
Yeah, I think
that is why in this world you have that contrast.
That makes sense.
In heaven, there is no contrast. Pure joy, pure happiness, no suffering, no, sorrow, no grief.
But that makes sense because you've got the afterlife. So it makes sense for humans, but it doesn't make sense for animals.
As I said, the animals, they will have their recompense and their compensation that they will have. And even if that is the end of it, because God's plan, look, God could have, okay, one thing I want to ask you. Why do you expect God to make you live forever and forever? Why would you expect God to create you and give you a life of eternity with no end? Why? It's God's choice. He could create you and that's it. So he could create animals and that's it. They're only a mechanism in this life, how we understand and how we develop ourselves.
Animals die and suffer.
Yeah, but I'm saying all of that has a compensation. People get killed, are compensated.
But the recompense is the afterlife.
No, I'm saying they do not have to have a continuous means of afterlife in which they have to live forever within the animal kingdom and so on and so forth. If their existence is annihilated and only thing is there, like if you wish something, I want to eat the meat of a bird, and the bird is now created, comes up to you, and then you eat of that meat and so on and so forth. But they do not have to have. If you want, for example, I'm sure, if you want, I want a pet dog in hereafter. This is your wishes. If that doesn't contradict anything of God, I'm sure it will be granted. But we don't go into all of these details if the guidance from Islam is silent about it. Like somebody says, I want to play football, I want to win. And he says, I want to win too in the match. Well, that cannot be granted. Why? Because you're generating contradictions. In heaven, there cannot be contradictions. There cannot be conflict of will. People say, look, in the Quran or in Islamic teaching, you believe everything that you wish will be granted. So you say, I want to play against Mansoor, and I want to win, and Mansoor wants to win. How can you win a game? Both cannot win. So this kind of wishing would not be given. Contradictions, logical impossibility will be removed.
Well, I guess, so is it that...
And I gave an arbitrary example. There could be many examples where you generate contradictions, you create a very incoherent picture. What we are saying, the Quran tells you there will not be any ill feelings, any grief, and so on and so forth. That means our human psyche will be transformed in such a way in which you would not wish where there will be generation of conflict of will, where logical impossibilities arise. Logical impossibilities would not arise in heaven.
But then, so I feel it's like one last point on that problem of evil, and I feel then I probably need to call it for a day. But again, but on that, so animals versus human, right? There's like a clear distinction between the two. Humans have souls, go to heaven, or to hell, but afterlife. Animals don't. But that is at odds with the fact that there's a continuum of evolution, and I'm not talking about necessarily the theory of evolution, but the fact of evolution, where it was animal, and at some point human, and there seems to be there's like a dichotomy. There's been something that's been said at some point. You're a human, you get the soul, you get to go to heaven, and you have free will, and then everything that comes before that doesn't. Yeah. And that to me is
I understand your point. What you're saying is, look, all form of creation should have some reward or punishment. A tree, for example, you're saying that tree provided the shade. It provided so much fruits and vegetables. It should be rewarded. It should have a heavenly afterlife and so on. This is the expectation you are coming up with. I'm saying God can decide to continue the existence of something as long as he wants according to his wisdom. He can have human beings forever and forever if he wish. He can have certain creation up to that point if he wishes, for example. This is the prerogative of God, how he wants to continue the perpetual existence of certain form of creation. So the recompense, the reward or the punishment you are saying, you are expecting everything that is here on this world, even a bacteria, even the viruses. Let's talk about them. There are good bacteria in our gut that helps digestions. Are you expecting a reward for them? They should continue in the hereafter. You can bring in all of these things and you will say, I expect them to have a reward in heaven as well. So what we are saying is God in his wisdom, he has certain creation in mind to be rewarded in the hereafter. In his world of creations, for example, he can create a world in which there are other creation with other rewards, other punishment. God is constantly creating. This world of ours is one of these many worlds. So we have a companion who says like there's like a parallel worlds. There are parallel prophets, parallel you over there. God can create that. But what we're dealing with is our existence, our soul. You and I know, I'm not Camille and you're not Mansour. We have our individual existence and awareness of the existence. What is there for us is a continuity of life with a given a new body of our soul, because what I'm my soul with my body that can be changed and rechanged if necessary. In the hereafter will be a different body and a mechanism to enjoy what I've done here. And that enjoyment would be spiritual, would be physical, and so on. Now, if, for example, I'm saying, look, I'm not giving you a blanket statement about animals. I'm saying if there is nothing contradictory and people wish, and God, even God has some, I don't know all the text. If someone can correct me, if there are texts in which there are animals can live, no problem. I don't see any problems. But I'm saying, in general, even if there wasn't a afterlife for animals, this is the prerogative of God in which anything, any suffering they had, they will be compensated and they will not feel in any way unjustly treated.
So I agree. I mean, you can explain away to some extent everything on that, but it is a very contrived. Very contrived.
I will come back with beneficial bacteria. According to your expectation, there should be beneficial bacteria having reward. So we want now bacteria in heaven.
There is an alternate explanation. The simpler explanation would be there is a God that has set up a bunch of rules, laws, and I created the universe, created the things, and let them, all of them, evolve and develop according to his plans, but it's not materially then intervening on, oh, you'll get a reward, you won't get a reward. It's just like this whole part of the thing.
The question is about continuity of existence. So we are told we will have continued existence either in heaven or in hell. Okay? The jinns is another creations, likewise. In terms of other creation, for example, now if somebody questioning about viruses and bacteria, certain bacteria is good for you, right? In their gut, they really help digest. You do know that, right? In fact, people take probiotic, full of bacteria, isn't it?
Yeah.
We actually consume bacteria for the goodness of our gut. So if people say now, okay, what's the reward for them in the hereafter? Should they be in heaven as well? Well, if God wants to have their bacterial heaven, of course he can have a bacterial heaven for them, and so on. But God is interested in the humans in terms of what we are, rather than, you interested in everything else. There are many things which are not necessary for us to delve into. If you do have questions, that's why the Quran at one point said, look, if you have questions like this while the Quran is being revealed, then it will be answered. Like if you have,
actually a question on that. Because obviously in the Christian understanding, the reason why God cares about humans is because humans were created in the image of God. But that's not the case in Islam, right? So in Islam, why does God care about humans specifically, as opposed to everything else in his creation?
God considers human beings one of the best of creations. In the eyes of God, one of the best, ashraful makhluqat, one of the best of creations. Allah created us. In fact, if you think about it, we are the top of the food chain in that manner. In fact, human beings are going to space. Not an elephant or a bacteria, human beings. So God created us in this way, and he has the whole human project in a way that the consequences of them is going to be either eternal heaven or eternal hell, like that. But in doing so, human beings are placed in an environment in which there are other forms of creation. And we have to encounter and engage with these creations in the best possible way. That is why Islam says look after your environment and look after the things in your environment. Don't go and kill unnecessarily, unless, for example, for food and so on. So we can't have a farm of rabbits only for fun by hunting with our foxes. Totally forbidden, because that's suffering for fun. But God has granted us permissibility, permission to consume some animals for food. But He doesn't grant us to eat all forms of food, because He says there are some which are good for you and some which are not. Halal and tayyiba, we talked about pure and permissible. So we only consume what God has given permission for, which are by their nature, they're good and they're permissible. Camille? What's any next question?
I mean, I think for today is probably enough.
Okay, that's
more
fine.
that I need to go and read them. I think
Sure.
the big thing that I need to, I feel like that's going to be
Inimitability. Inimitability, certainly. Do watch the lecture. And in the meantime, take care and
yeah, thank you again.
keep your
again,
questions.
I just want to say again, thank you for your time and thank you for being generous with your time. I really appreciate it.
No, you've been wonderful. Even with the hecklers, you know, you stood your ground and you told the heckler to go away. That was really, really good. And I hope the heckler at least appreciates what it means.
You know, the whole like hecklers, whatever. Ultimately, something that. Wait, hang on. I just want to say something about engaging with, you know, the whole Christians and Muslims. A lot of what you see on the internet is about clashes between the two. I'm actually much more interested in engaging honestly with, and I find that all the Muslims that I've interacted personally have been lovely people. You know, really interesting in what I have to say. I'm interested in what you have to say as well. So thank you, and I think that shows in the videos that you've got. So
You take care. Until next time.
Yeah, next time.
See you later. وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين.
جزاك الله brother.
بارك الله فيك.